Ladies and gentlemen, big terrible news.
Hey, kia ora koutou whānau. Welcome back to another edition of Big Hairy News. Kia ora Chewy, how are you, love?
Kia ora, Pat.
Oh, look what you're wearing. What are you wearing there? Can I see? What is it? What are you wearing?
Oh, but Pat, you've got a similar.
What am I wearing?
What have we got here?
Oh. Oh. Oh my goodness. We'll get to that in a second. How are you all? How are you, Chewy? Anything exciting happen this weekend?
I actually had some very old friends in town over the weekend, which is great. Back from my EB Games days, and we've stayed in touch ever since. So, just showing off Dunedin a little bit.
Nice.
And the weather was perfect for that. It's cold and wet and grey. Just how we like it.
I had a really, really interesting interaction over the weekend, and I want to tell everyone about it. Actually, I just want to tell you, Chewy. I really want to listen, and you're more than welcome to.
Everybody else.
And it's so interesting that I want to get these people on to have a bit of a conversation. I didn't know about this. Maybe some of you did. Maybe you do, Chewy. There's a thing called the Prisoner Correspondence Network of Aotearoa. Now, what happens is these guys organise people to send Christmas cards, amongst other things, to prisoners on Christmas Day. Because what you hear in the news a lot is you hear, oh, the prisoners, they have a really lovely Christmas Day as compared to, they have a proper meal and they have turkey. Well, what we learned in the weekend was actually they run off a skeleton staff because it's Christmas Day. And so actually maybe prisoners spend the whole day inside, like in their cells on Christmas Day, and they don't get to go out and they don't get to get anything. So this organisation, right, see up here it says holiday card drive. What you can do is you can make Christmas cards that get delivered to prisoners. And I was in a group over the weekend, and there we are. You can't see me because I'm taking the photo, but we had from a 6.5-year-old, I think, to about an 80-year-old around a table making Christmas cards to get sent off to a prisoner. If you do it through the group, you can actually get prisoners' names, and you can actually make it to like a Ricky or a Terry or a John or a Sebastian or whatever. And you can actually make a card, write a message, and put it on the pile. The pile's there. I don't know if you can see it too clearly, but there's a lot of them just building up. Or you can just buy Christmas cards and write a message in them. They don't have to be made, but we did an arts and crafts afternoon. And I have already emailed these people because I know that they need to have the Christmas cards by the 1st of December. I believe they have to be in Auckland by. And I only discovered them in the weekend. It might be too little too late, but if we can get them on, and if anybody's interested in doing this, then head to pcn.nz, PCN, the Prisoner Correspondence Network of Aotearoa. It was a really, and we got talking about things, and of course, amongst this conversation of these group of people, the idea of the apology came up as well. When the apology came up, we started talking about, people in prison who were abused in state care and the number of stats and people in gang. So it was just like it wasn't cathartic. That would sound weird, but it was doing a very teeny tiny thing that might make someone's day a lot better. It might. I always think in any kind of interaction, you only have to improve your behavior by 5% and you can make someone's day 20% better. Like, especially if it's someone on the phone, who's been getting grumpy customers all day. Someone's nice to you, that can, and it's really easy to be nice to people on the phone. And I mean, I'm not trying to, I don't know if I'm going backwards and forwards, but it's a similar sort of thing. bit of time, bit of effort making cards. I got to go, Chewy, and revisit all my third form bombing days with the shadow letters and that kind of stuff. Merry Christmas on all these cards. And you write it to someone, you write them a message, and I sign them Pat because you can do that, or you can just say, someone, you don't have to use your name. They don't know who you are anyway. So I recommend it. And I'm going to try and get them on this week. We'll see what happens though. So that was something cool from the weekend.
Prisoners around Christmas time, like, it always annoyed me. Now that I mention it, you'll see it when it happens.
Yeah.
The only time we hear about prisoners at Christmas time is when they publish a story about what they're getting for Christmas dinner and how much it costs the taxpayer. And you will always see the comments of like, they don't deserve anything. I just want to go, you're already in prison, right? As you said, skeleton staff, maybe you're locked in the cell for the entire day. There is nothing worse in my mind than even having a basic acknowledgement of Christmas. You're still there going, my friends and family are having a proper Christmas and I'm in jail.
Yeah.
I'm in prison. It's shit. And they don't need people to pile on at that point. Just an acknowledgement that they're there is worth so much. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, and look, some people in the chat are talking about they don't have any money to support something like this. One of the women who was at the thing on Sunday, she'd bought a pack of 10 Christmas cards from a secondhand shop for $1. $1, and she was filling those ones out 10, and then they get taken to the to their place in Auckland. So it doesn't have to be a big thing either. It can be Anyway. I just thought I wanted to mention that. Speaking of money, smooth. Huge thanks to Sam, to Anne McIntosh, to Michael, to Amy, and to Cherie Antoinette, who have all become patrons in the last 7 days, and also to Jay McCain, who's gone from a coffee runner level to a fuel level, which is a $5 a month to an $8 a month. Thank you so very much. If you are interested in supporting what we do, if you are about us and you like what we're doing, you like what you're seeing, you can head to patreon.com/Big Hairy News. Now, if you are a patron, or if you are not, and you wonder what could you get, look, one of the things you could have got today, you could have got notified of the early release of some particular hoodies and t-shirts that we're selling this week. You also, if you're a patron, you could have seen some of the process over the weekend that I was putting up there of things getting printed on the new commercial printer. See? You could have got a sexy pitch. That was pitch, as in short for picture. There was no B at the start of that. Patreon.com/Big Hairy News if you're interested in getting behind what we do. And we are going to do a meetup this week. And for those who don't know, a meetup is an online meetup. We literally have patrons from all over the world, and we do it sort of Saturday morning, because that actually both works best with the American times and also the UK times, because we do have some people from there who support us as well. So there you go. So if you want to be a part of this, you want to come to our, shall I reveal a little secret? I was about to say it might be our last meetup, of the year. And it might not be, because we've actually just last week decided that we are going to have a BHN Christmas party. We are going to bring everyone to Dunedin who is a part of this, who are the broadcasters on here, and we're going to have a Christmas party. And maybe during that Christmas party, we might actually just do a bit of a live stream, have a bit of a conversation with people. There you go. Okay, now let's get to this, shall we? Because this is for you guys to know. Gosh, I haven't even brought it up yet. If you're interested in the merch that we've got for sale at the moment, we've only just put it up, then you can head to bhnshop.nz. bhnshop.nz, and there is the November merch message. Now, this merch drop is slightly different because I needed to learn how to use the system. I have already ordered a bunch of t-shirts and hoodies. Normally, what happens is you guys order your merch. We then order the t-shirts and hoodies to order for the right number, and then we send them out. So what that means is all the hoodies, and you can get blue ones. There's the blue one. There's the black one. There's blue. There's black. Where's black? There's black. All right. There's the black one. There's a limited number of them. All right. Like, for example, I think there might only be 2 smalls and maybe 2 3XLs, and then like limited numbers in between, because I had to stump up with all the money straight away. So it's a bit different. Now, so there's a couple of things. If you want this sooner rather than later, Chewy pointed out from this one as well, this is the blue one he's wearing, that it's actually national colours as well, which I think is beautiful. If you want to get in and make sure that you get it as soon as possible, I will be printing some tomorrow and sending some out tomorrow because some of the patrons have already bought them. Then you can get in this week. And all we're doing this week is we're selling Nicky No Boats, hoodies and t-shirts, and because we still have a very limited number of the original Beardy Boy t-shirts, like, so for example, there is only small and large in the black on black left. We've decided just to give them basically away at cost. If anyone wants them, $30, you can have it. And hoodies and t-shirts are there as well. Now, we have a limited number. So if you want to get yours, you need to get in quickly. But I say this is why I'm not a very good salesman, Joey, because I'm telling people there's an out as well. I should just leave it there. Get in early. What we're going to try and do next week is have a really special 4 days of merch. It's going to be merch you've never seen before, and it's going to be only for 4 days. And the reason it's only going to be for 4 days is Thursday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Thursday is about the 28th of November, which means I order them on Friday. This will be a regular merch drop. I order them on Friday, which is the 29th of November, which means I have them on Monday or Tuesday, which is the 2nd, 3rd of December. Then I need to print them by the end of that week, which is 6th or 7th of December, and then make sure you get them by the end of, before Christmas. So you get it? So this week, we're just going to do the Nicky No Boats and a couple of those leftover Beardy Boy ones. It's all there, bhnshop.nz. Next week, we're going to have like a 4-day, yes, look, Peter Syme like time. I saw that on Saturday, Friday night. I was lurking. We can say that we'll just say that these ones are Black Friday specials because they're really cheap. And then next week, there's going to be a Superganza 4-day special merch you haven't seen before, hopefully. But literally only for 4 days. I think that's it, Joey. I think I've done. We were just kind of padding for time, waiting for you to get back. Did you decide you'd come back? Is that the plan?
Yeah, it was super good, super seamless.
Yeah.
As we're doing housekeeping, have you mentioned the podcast awards?
Oh, I haven't done that. You can do that.
Rapidly approaching. Yeah. So if you haven't already, vote for us in the podcast awards. We're in People's Choice thingamy that closes on the 27th, and you should pick us, and maybe we'll get another nod, and that would be a good time, and you should do that. You should do that,
and then Joey,
open up another window or on a second device.
We'll print ourselves our own award because they don't have any actual physical things. We'll just print ourselves one and stick it on the wall behind us or something.
In case you haven't noticed, chat, Pat has gone printer mad. He's gone crazy. He's going to be like any thought he has. You know, like when you're in the shower and you have a thought, he's going to get out and he's going to print them. We're going to get fucking weird with it. In the description of the YouTube and the description of wherever you're watching this, actually maybe not, but certainly Facebook, YouTube, in the description is the link. And also you have to put in the name of the podcast and a link to it, as Kiwi Skirt says, but the actual link is in the description as well, so you can get it there. Okay, so tonight, here's what we're going to talk about. Obviously, we're going to talk about the Hikoi. I've been speaking to Eru Kapakingi today, and I think they're starting at 4 a.m. tomorrow morning. And so, fair enough, no questions asked. They're going to be crashing early tonight. They're starting walking from Patron at 4 a.m. To be at the Parliament by about midday. So no problems there. We're also going to have a look, and Chewy, you kind of released this. You almost did like a bit of a secret squirrel release about the nurses going on strike. You said that last week and no one had said it publicly yet. Yep. That looks like it is happening for overpay and conditions, I guess. And also I want to show you something that's a little bit more rando, but when we talk about mis and disinformation,
there is a path at which and how that happens. Over the weekend in the US, there was a really unimportant, silly story about American football. But that silly story shows you exactly how in about 3 steps it can go from a lie to be reported on ESPN as truth. Like, it's really interesting to watch. So there's not going to be too much to add to that in general, but I wanted to bring it out here just to show us. Maybe if I show us how disinformation and misinformation works, what we'll do then is we'll be able to identify it more easily. Or maybe we'll be able to question things more easily and go, hang on, is this one of these moments that we need to watch out for? Sarah, I've thought about that. In fact, we had a t-shirt last year that said, have yourself a very beardy Christmas. Remember that, Chewy? Red and white?
No.
No.
Right. I don't remember that one.
Probably because it didn't sell. I don't think anyone bought one. So, there you go. So there you go. All right. I think what we're going to do is we're going to start with, this is sort of yours. I'm giving this to you, Chewy, this is your story, because you sort of broke it last week and you've got, I think, a family member who works in the industry. I think that's right, isn't it?
Yep. My sister is a nurse here in Dunedin Hospital. And
I've just realised we haven't tested the audio. So if this doesn't work, tell me very quickly. So the nurses seem to be identifying that they are going on strike next year over paying conditions.
The nurses' organisation has called a nationwide strike next month, saying the latest pay offer from Te Whatu Ora will cause another wave of nurses moving to Australia. The NZNO says the health system's in chaos, the government has forgotten about patients and has accountants running the health system. Senior reporter Juliet Speedy has more.
They're the front line of healthcare in this country.
They're upset, they're frustrated, they're absolutely fatigued and worn out, and they can't see it getting any better,
And bargaining between Health New Zealand and the nurses' organisation has broken down.
We seem to have hit a hard place pretty quickly, actually, and around 2 critical issues. One is wages, and the other is safe staffing or staffing complements.
Te Whatu Ora.
I guess that means numbers as well, doesn't it, Joey? It does seem so simple that we constantly talk about, people leaving for Australia. And every time we do that, when we're talking and specifically about doctors, nurses, teachers, and who else? Police. All you do is you look to Australia and they're getting 10, 20, 30% more when it comes to pay. And they're getting a lump sum to move across there. I don't care what you say. I don't think teachers become teachers for money or nurses become nurses for money. Doctors, But it's unquestionable that if you paid them what they were worth, or at least better than you're paying them now, then you'd have more of them. Is that fair, Chewy?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's this classic thing. Like I know this is a criticism of this government. It's a criticism of previous governments as well. They haven't kept up with the curve. And that means that someone's carrying the can for a big increase and that sort of thing. But here we are in the shadow of a global pandemic, and we're bitching and moaning and nickel and diming these nurses over paying conditions. We need more nurses. There's not enough of them. And they're not sticking around and using the training that they're getting in this country. They're taking it somewhere else. That sounds like a poor deal to me. That sounds like we understand the cost, we don't see the value.
Yeah, and I think that was it Whakatane that the police in Whakatane were being targeted directly from Australia. Australia's smart because Australia just goes, wow, if we can pay these Kiwis, or we pay our cobbers, they'll be better off and they'll come. And guess what? More New Zealanders left last year in the last 12 months than have ever left this country before. And most of them went, guess where? Australia. So it's working for Aussie, and it's frustrating. It's obligatory that we say it once a show, that they're happy to spend $3 billion on landlords and $14 billion on tax cuts and underpay our nurses, our teachers, our doctors. But I actually go specifically nurses and teachers. I feel they're more service than the other ones. They're not, but because they don't get the BMW as a doctor may. You paid them a bit better, then they'd be around a bit more. And then, of course, you tell us how the system's broken and the health system's broken. And it's like, yo, just pay people more. Or when they come out, like Chewy talked about a story a few months ago, when they come out of nursing school, university, and you offer them a job, don't pull it back away from them. Let them actually have the job you've offered them. Anyway, we'll keep going, eh?
Yep.
Has capped any increase at 1% of total employee costs, which would mean 0.5% in the first year.
We haven't nominated for
0.5%. So what would that be?
If you spit on them. Just do that.
Let's say a nurse is earning 70 grand. That might be a senior nurse. Times 0.5% equals. It says 35. Can't be 35. Maybe 3,500. Well, 1% would be 1% on 70,000 would be, yeah, because 10% would be 7,000. So 1% would be 700. So a 0.1% increase would be $350, $7 a week. Hey, stay in New Zealand. Holy crap. That's horrific.
figure, but what we say is it needs to recognise cost of living, otherwise it'll be a wage cut.
Nurses are also alarmed at plans to pause a digital staffing system used in hospitals to indicate how many full-time staff are required on duty at any given time.
God.
Health New Zealand told 3 News it values the enormous contribution of our nursing workforce and thanks them for...
Are you serious? I've
Yeah,
said this here before. I used to know someone who was a senior man in New Zealand, and the thing he would say to me often is, when words and actions disagree, believe the actions. So Mark Shepherd, Health New Zealand values the enormous contribution of our nursing workforce and thanks them for their critical work. Those are the words. But when you say we will give you 0.5% increase or $350 a year if you're earning $70,000, the actions don't say that, Chewy.
No. What a rain of insults. $350, and then you get this guy going, oh, we absolutely value your enormous contribution. No, you don't. Do you know how you show that you value someone's enormous contribution? You put a value on it, and you guys have just put $350 on it. For a lot of people, like with a family and that sort of thing, that's like a 1-2 week shopping, and it's gone.
Yeah. Yeah. Just for
That's
clarity.
Madness.
Just for clarity, because I thought we started talking about 70,000, like the misinformation thing, like all of a sudden that was truthful, Chewy. Like I just threw a number out there. So I've just had a look, and it says $45.16 per hour. The average salary for a registered nurse in New Zealand, $45.16 per hour. It says they are 79,000 to 104,000. Senior registered nurses can be 111,000 to 158,000. So call it 80,000. So 80,000. So we were wrong about 350. That makes it $400 a week. So much difference if you're on $80,000 as opposed to 350. Good Lord, that's horrific. Okay, let's keep going.
Told 3 News it values the enormous contribution of our nursing workforce and thanks them for their critical work.
Of course you do.
But we are disappointed that strike action is being taken so early in the bargaining process. Any settlement needs to reflect the ongoing reset of Health New Zealand as we work to get back to budget and complete the restructuring underway.
Got two different models.
Yes, Chewy, sorry, you sounded like you needed to explode shortly.
The health budget. Remember this whole thing? The health budget? They've got to get back to budget? No. The government needs to fund the health sector correctly.
Mm-hmm.
Rephrase that question. The budget is in the position it's in because of choices that the government made.
100%.
Do not increase the budget to match cost of living, increased costs, and they chose to give money away rather than put it into where it's needed.
Yeah.
They chose not to tax wealthy people, so they had to make these hard cuts and pass that on to the shoulders of our nurses who have to suck up an insult pay offer. And this guy's like, oh, we're really disappointed you're striking. Mate, I'm surprised that they're not chucking office furniture through your fucking window. I'd be furious.
I think what you've just said is something we need to always remember. Remember, when the government says something like, we've got tight budgets, or we have to reach our budgets, or we have to set our targets, they've decided all of those. They've decided the targets. They've decided the budgets. All of those are decisions they've made. So when they say, there's not really enough money in the budget, what they're saying is there's not really enough money in the budget that we could have allocated any amount to, but we chose not to. It's a really important point. You hear about people talking about austerity and not having a lot of money to throw around, the health system. It's like, that's a choice. That's a government choice not to have a lot of money to throw around the health system. That is not necessarily, it's not like they're trying to sell widgets and, oh gosh, the widget, Chewy, the sale of widgets have dropped by 40% in the East. It's not that. It's that they've chosen to go, we're going to give you this much money. Oh gosh, there's not much money to work with now. Yeah, I know, because you decided that. It's a really important point to remember.
To budget and complete the restructuring underway.
You've got two different models. You've got the accountant's model of how to run a health system, and then you've got the nurse's model, which is all about patients, care and well-being. And I think I know what most New Zealanders would want out of those two things.
And Paul Galter says without a better offer, more patients will suffer and more Kiwi nurses will flock offshore.
We will see...
It's pronounced fuck offshore. Well, I mean, they're not getting it right. It's pronounced they will fuck offshore. Not the, what is this flock thing?
Patients will suffer and more Kiwi nurses will flock offshore.
We will see a re-emergence of those people going over to Aussie. And why wouldn't they?
He says patients are being forgotten by the very government agency that's supposed to look after them.
There you go. Chewy, I was also thinking, though, they were talking about the accountant's model. I mean, I've got an accountant who I avoid at every cost because I don't like numbers, who I don't think it's the thing about the accountant's model. The one thing I think that they're missing is the accountants actually want things to be profitable and work. I know what he's saying. He's saying they're penny pinching, just worrying about the dollars and nothing else. But if it was actually an accountant's model, that would be better, because that would actually be someone wanting the system to work and the numbers to work properly, where it doesn't feel like we've even got that. So it's a bad accountant's model. It's a crooked accountant's model, not just an accountant's model. You know what I'm saying?
You look at the priorities that this government has had. First cab out of the ranks, we have to give tax cuts to landlords. I know we keep on banging that drum, but we've still got 3 years to go of banging that fucking drum.
Yep.
But that was the first cab out of the ranks. Not up for negotiation. We campaigned on it. Rah-de-rah-de-rah. And then they set the budgets. They made the choices. And it just seems to me that it is austerity. They don't want to call it that, but it is austerity. It is massive job cuts right throughout the public sector. And to turn around to nurses, and I can't stress this enough, nurses that got us through COVID, who had to work in those environments with all of those restrictions, the extra hours, the wearing PPE all of the time, dealing with everything that comes with a global pandemic. And at the end of it, or at the tail of it, we can't find enough money in the kitty to even give them a cost of living increase. Why are we training nurses for other countries? Where is the benefit? Where is the long-term thinking for that?
Yeah.
We're going to hemorrhage not only our experienced nurses that will go for top dollar, but also the next generation of nurses that are coming through that won't even get their foot in the door here. They will just go somewhere else. They've already been fucked around by this government this year by saying, oh, look, there's jobs. Oh, no, there's not. Or maybe there is. It depends who's asking us. Oh, but there's not really. Do you expect people to put a pause on their life? Do they not understand this? Like, coming at setting a budget for a country like you're setting a budget for a household or a business does not work.
Yeah.
It just doesn't. How much does it cost to run our healthcare system efficiently? That is the only thing. Then you get that number and then you go, right, well, now we have to have enough money to do that because we see that as a priority. So, okay, so we need X amount of dollars. Right. Well, we need to find a way to get that money. And the government has all the tools for raising the money. Some of them are more politically acceptable than others. But that is the choice that you've made. That is the choice that this government has made, that nurses carry the costs for the decisions that they want to make. Patients in hospitals are going to bear the cost of the decisions that Nicola Willis has made around the budget. So don't give me this whole thing of like, oh, times are tough and the hospital's not making as much money. It doesn't make money. It spends it. And it trades money for healthcare, for keeping people in this country alive and healthy and working. And that is the long term of it.
Yeah.
So
it's a service.
I'm not crazy. I'm not coming up with some Willy Wonka version of the future. That's how it works. Why don't these guys get that? Why are they surprised that the nurses hammered the strike button when you turn around and go, here's a couple of hundy. That should keep you quiet. Hey, back to work, back to your overtime. We won't pay you overtime. We'll both at the same time tell you your leave balance is too high and that you've got to take leave, and then deny every leave application that you make because we don't have the bodies. So why would anyone put up with that? Would you put up with that in your job? I wouldn't.
Yeah, especially if you've got an opportunity for an adventure. I sort of didn't quite get offered a job, but it wasn't the last position to get offered a job to work at a place called Longreach in Australia, which is where Qantas started running some radio stations. And the main reason I would have done that was it was an adventure. Leaving New Zealand and going overseas and living somewhere different. So you've got the opportunity of an adventure in a place that's not so scarily different to this one, that's got, I say better weather. I mean, sometimes it's too hot, but nice weather, and you get paid more. So it's, so that's what you're weighing this up against. And in this day and age, especially if you live on the east coast of Australia, New Zealand's not that far away. It's not that far away. I mean, how many people see their parents every single day versus, once a month, once every 6 months? You can do that from Australia. Yes, true.
It's happened again.
What's happened?
You don't understand that Pat and Chewy want to see our rich people overseas with a wealth tax and a capital gains tax. No, Aaron, you're wrong. I want to see our wealthy people here in this country with a wealth tax and a capital gains tax. That's the difference. Like all of these guys that say, oh, if we do this, all the rich people will leave and they'll take the capital with them. They never consider the fact that everywhere that these guys are going to want to go, there is a wealth tax, an inheritance tax, capital gains tax, stamp duty, all of this sort of stuff. The reason that they're whinging about it is because they want to stay here because we're not doing it.
Yeah.
Everywhere they want to go, unless they all want to move to Saudi, all of those places have that because that's what those countries know, is that the wealthy people can be taxed harder because they make more money. And it means that they have healthy workforce. It means they have an educated workforce because we're paying teachers. It means we live in a safe society because we're paying our police as well. Like, look, all of these things are worth doing.
This is also a nonsense trope that you hear people saying when they're threatening
absolute
things.
Nonsense.
It's also, listen, I mean, you can say people on the left. It's a nonsense trope that all those people in America on the left said, oh, if Trump wins, I'm leaving the country. No, it doesn't happen. I always like the All Blacks example of this. If you want to wear the All Black jersey, you have to play rugby in New Zealand. Like other countries don't care if you go off and play in France and England and South Africa, you can still represent the country. But and for rugby players, that black jersey is so valued that they will stay in New Zealand and earn less just to get to the All Black jersey. New Zealand is like that for the wealthy as well. The ability to stay in New Zealand is so valued, to live in this place. We don't realize it because we're living here, that they're not just going to take off because there's not a better place for them to go. Like New Zealand to the wealthy is like the All Black jersey to rugby players. They're not just going to take off. And if they did, as Chewy just said, they're probably going to strike harsher taxes than what we'd even end up having here. Speaking of fun,
I like to bring up, just think of, let's talk about our friends across the ocean, the Americans. Their absolute golden period of just a massive uplift in the quality of life. They went to the fucking moon, all of that good stuff.
50,
They
60,
had over an 80% tax rate, top tax rate, and they still kept on making millionaires.
Mm-hmm.
And we've all been, they've trotted out this lie from the 80s, from Reagan, that if we don't tax them too hard, it will trickle down. If we do tax them too hard, they're going to leave and go somewhere else that hasn't worked this out yet. And do you know what we've learned over the last 40 or 50 years? That it's bullshit. That it's never worked. Like all of these people that say socialism, it's a good theory, but it never works in practice. We've actually literally got a theory that's never worked in practice. There's neoliberalism and it's trickle-down economics. And that's exactly what we're talking about here. We can't tax the rich people too much. We've got to put the weight of everything on the shoulders of nurses instead. That is shit math. It's a shit way of running a country. It's never worked anywhere that it's been tried, and we need to stop fucking doing it.
And the other people that get to pay for these things is us as taxpayers. No, it's a very small amount, but as KiwiBird points out when we're talking about funding, $4 million for a dead bill. That's a choice as well. Yep, 100%.
It's six-month submission process. That's a choice.
Yep. Yep. All right. Some more super chats that are coming. Thanks for your super chats, guys. Thank you, Lurchie. Harry's in Wellington tomorrow. Paula Marie and Lurchie will be at a bar in Chews Lane, post-Parliament, pre-concert. Hit us up on Discord. There you go, far note if you're in Wellington. You should definitely take some footage for us, Lurchie, and send it through to us so we can show tomorrow night. I was actually thinking, Chewy, depending on what's out there, I might even jump on and do a bit of a live. If there's enough people on TikTok and Instagram lives and those sorts of things, maybe I'll jump on and just have a look what's going on. So make sure that you have hit that notification bell so you know if we go live tomorrow afternoon. Peter says, this is back to the merch. Oh, didn't you hear, Chewy? Are you not aware of that? There's this new merch going on that people are buying up pretty massively tonight, to be honest. They're aware
really?
What limited run
people have
means.
Wanted this. They wanted this.
And I have to say, I mean, I like them both, but I am a little bit jealous that you've got the blue one. I think the blue one is
And the blue's
fire.
nice.
Yeah, I think can you give us a twirl or something? You know what it is? Emily did so well with the blue on the actual background. It just blends in with it so well. Anyway, Peter says, how about Nikki no boats, coats and totes? Oh, very good. Gold wants to pay late fee. Appreciate that. Thank you for the super chat. And another one, Kiwi Bird. Can we send Nikki no votes Christmas cards? It's funny, I thought about Christmas cards as well. I've been working on printing shirts to learn how to do Christmas cards as well. All right. Anything you want to chuck out there, Chewy, about that? Anything in the chat you want to get to before I go on to about this misinformation story?
I want to spend the rest of the show lashing Aaron because he's twiddling my knobs today.
No, well, don't feed the trolls.
Labour didn't campaign on it and they did get in because every time they talk about wealth, blah, 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 blah. But apparently we still voted for Labour or Greens. Yes, I voted for Greens because they had a better tax policy.
Greens are the best tax policy.
They wanted to do exactly what I was talking about.
Yeah.
Right? So I don't know what angle you're taking. Like, who should I have voted for? You tell me. If you could tell me next time so I know how to properly vote, that'd be really good, Aaron. Cheers.
You okay, Chewy? You want a hug?
No, it continues. The rest of the show is more rage. More rage all the time.
Wooming's got an idea. Nikki no votes captain's hat. Maybe,
I was talking about that with my partner. I was sure we had a captain's hat here in my house. I have torn it apart looking for the captain's hat. I can't find it.
All right. Hey, let's get on to the story. There's actually not much to add to the story. This is more like a little bit of show and tell because I think it's really, and look, we did it tonight, Chewy. I kind of said, well, we should, because I said, let's say a nurse is earning $70,000. And then I realized I don't want to say that. I want to have accurate information. So we went and we looked it up and we got it. And now we're saying, starting around 80, 70 around 80. So let's call it 80. This story that what's his name? Chris Hayes? Yeah, Chris Hayes tells us about is about a guy who stuck out a fallacious tweet in the weekend that within a few minutes or hours was being spoken about as the truth on ESPN. The reason this is a bit funny is it shows how stupid people are, but it also goes to show the dangerous side of this is how dis and misinformation go. Probably more misinformation, because disinformation is spreading mistruth that you know are mistruths. So this is probably more misinformation, but just watch this little path of how things happen. Enjoy.
This week on Sunday Night Football, Detroit Lions quarterback Jared Goff, generally a very good quarterback, was having a terrible game against the Houston Texans. Goff threw 4 interceptions by halftime, meaning he threw the ball, the other team caught it, taking possession. That's bad. It's a turnover. You don't want to do it.
So obviously, if you don't follow American football, very different from rugby. Quarterback is not like a halfback. Runs the whole game, only plays offense, doesn't play defense, tries to get the ball to the other end of the field to get a score. So throwing it to his own players, the opposition team who are playing defense, they have a defensive team, all in of itself, catching the ball, stopping it. So it's very, very, you'd often go through 2, 3, 4, 5 games without even a single intercept. So like 4 in one game is off the charts terrible.
At halftime, someone posted a surprising statistic to social media, and it started going viral. Here it is. This is now Jared Goff's 7th career game with at least 4 interceptions. His record in those games, 6-0.
Okay, so we're just talking it through. 6-0 meaning in the 7th and the previous 6 games where he threw 4 interceptions, he then ended up winning all 6 of those games. So even though he was having a shocker, he pulled it out and he won 6 of those games. You know, so that was just a little bit of a interpretation of American football.
Now, for those of you who don't follow football, that is a extremely shocking, improbable, indeed it turns out ridiculous claim. 4 interceptions in a game is exceedingly rare. Winning 6 games where you did it? Okay. But it just kept circulating. The original poster even shared what appeared to be a graphic from a well-known sports statistic website to back it up that looks like StatMuse.
So he's made this. It's completely fake, but he's made this. Jared Goff is a 7-0 reckon when throwing 4+ interceptions. It's pretty funny when you think about it.
And that was apparently enough for folks to just parrot the claim on Challenge. It went everywhere. Even people who should know better, like ESPN host Pat McAfee and Aaron Rodgers, the conspiracy theorist quarterback for the New York Jets, who RFK Jr. apparently wanted at one point as his running mate.
Now, other thing about Pat McAfee there on the far left, he was an NFL player as well. I'm pretty sure he was a kicker. So he was actually, so you've got 2 NFL players here. One previous NFL, one I think current NFL player. So 2 top tier footballers are believing this and are about to just pass it on as truth.
I love Jared. I'm sure he'll bounce back. And the amazing stat though, is this a true stat that he's done 4 more picks 7 times and he's won every single one of those games? Is that real?
Yep, 7-0.
That's wild. I mean, that's why stats are for what Big Mike used to say. Age.
Stats for losers.
They're for losers. Is this true? It's true. You can probably tell where I'm going with this. The statistic is not true. It was a total lie. Just take it from the guy who made it up in the first place. Quoting, "If you've ever wondered how easy it is to spread fake information, I made this stat up while laying in my bed at halftime of the game." And this random Twitter football guy actually makes a pretty great point there. Now, thankfully, this is a totally harmless prank example of disinformation. Doesn't matter. The only consequence was McAfee getting embarrassed and having to walk it back on air. But what happened in that exchange between Pat McAfee and do your own research, Aaron Rodgers, is kind of the entire story of our age, of our information environment right now. Mm-hmm. These are the guys, those kinds of guys that are doing the vetting of what's true and not in our current information environment. That's it. Those are the guardrails. They are doing their own research, if you will. And it's not just sports. This problem translates across our political culture. I mean, everything. Lies and misinformation and intentional slander about immigration and immigrants and the economy. They're spreading on this kind of terrain where the anti-vax quarterback just parrots an unvetted statistic he saw on Elon Musk's website to millions of people on ESPN. I saw this stat. Yeah, it's true. That's it. That's the whole problem in miniature. A miniature version of the enormous problem that we all face that has gotten us to this point that the rest of us gotta try to find some way to solve. And I will be the first to say we do our part here, but I don't know the answer. I don't know the answer. But boy, oh boy, are we going to have to come up with something.
Yeah. So really interesting. And the thing that I find most interesting about it is when they talk about do your research, do your own research. What they're saying is we find narratives we agree with. And this is one of the things about, let's be honest, groups like us, although we try our best, but groups like, the platform or Bob McCoskey does this kind of weekly thing or whatever, is that they will, the reason the mainstream media is actually more reliable than independent is a journalist's work will go through layers of critiques before it gets published, especially if it's something that's controversial and could have a legal implication, like a defamation or saying something wrong. It goes through layers. And then the other thing that happens when the mainstream media gets it wrong is they then say it was wrong and they retract the statement and they correct it. So this just like doing our own research. What they do is they go, I did my research, I saw it on Twitter. That's the level of a conspiracy theorist or a person who thinks the mainstream media is all shit. They just do their own research and they find something that someone else has said. They then don't go to the next level and say, where did their information come from? Or where did their information come from? They just They see it, they read it, that's their research, now it's true. When McAfee there said, yep, it is, then that then became fact to everybody watching Chewy.
Yeah. And this is one of the main reason why I have been so concerned about the cuts to our news gathering organizations in this country. Because yes, some of those cuts are in the back rooms, as they always are, and they could be the unsexy departments, like the nerds that fact check.
Yeah.
They just don't have the bodies to do it. So then they're leaning more on AI writing stories, which might or might not get checked over by an editor correctly. It's these sort of things. This distrust of the mainstream media is like, I get it. But at the same time, they are being held to a higher standard than literally anything else. Yeah. The amount of straight up misinformation that has been going around about the conflict in Gaza since it started, the amount of stuff that has gone on around Ukraine since it started, and that is because there are some big hitters that know that the misinformation space is in places like Twitter, is in places like Facebook. There is no accountability. You might get caught, it might get deleted, or it might not, and it might stay up forever. And people will just keep on repeating. And it's fine, cool. It's a stupid stat in a football game. It doesn't matter. What if it's a story about a political candidate?
Exactly. That's why that's a great example, because it doesn't matter.
Like the collapse of Twitter. And when I say collapse, I mean the integrity of that platform since Elon bought it. Nobody seemed to be as concerned as they should be about a way to share information very, very quickly with absolutely no vetting, no standards, that sort of thing, being bought by the world's richest person and using it to influence an election, to influence the outcome of an armed conflict. That's mad concerning. The only thing, I mean, we've been talking in the chat and in the Discord, the collapse of Twitter since the election, as everybody goes to places like Mastodon and Blue Sky and that sort of thing. But that's one thing. But those platforms are prone to the same problem. We're relying on the integrity of people that we don't know. We don't know what their aims are. We don't know if they do have integrity. So where do we turn to have stories vetted? We turn to people that we trust, and we don't know where they're getting their information from. So trust is just absolutely key. We used to have trust in the media because well, it was their only choice, but there was a little bit of competition and there were rules around what they had to say, and the consequences for getting it wrong were high. Social media doesn't have any of that.
Yeah. If you're on the lawn, literally on the lawn at Wellington during that anti-mandate test, you're an expert. The number of people who were posting from there who had huge audiences, and they didn't need to do anything else other than be there, and that made them an expert. And then they continued that on. And I was thinking, Chewie, the other part about this, it's not just when mis and disinformation is shared, it's when something happens that's then retracted, it's too late. And I'm thinking about, the overtly wrong and negligent study where the person doing the study actually purposefully did it wrong about vaccines and autism. And even though that's been denounced, discredited, the person themselves have come out saying, this is what I did wrong, because that's had enough air, enough oxygen, you still hear it. You still hear people talking about it today.
You can't get the toothpaste back in the tube.
Not at all.
Like America, pretty much for all intents and purposes, wiped out measles. It's coming back. Polio will be the next thing. I don't know if they'll have cholera again at some point, but the cookers are at the wheel now in America.
Yep.
And our smugness over that, and it'll never happen here, only goes so far.
Just speaking of that, I'm just bringing up my Twitter feed because there was a very interesting image that went out over the weekend. Make America healthy again. This is, fucking RFK Jr.'s been in charge of the thing. So check out this photo. There they all are. Make America healthy again. Eating their Big Macs and their fries and their sugary drinks, an obese president-elect in a jet, eating junk food. And look at, I actually wonder if RFK Jr. is like, please don't take my photo. This is not going to go down.
He doesn't look
well.
happy about it. And someone should definitely Photoshop in, I don't know, a raw piece of bear or a fucking manatee or something, whatever he eats. He just eats roadkill, doesn't he? Or maybe he's just having a chat with his brainworm.
Yeah.
Do you know what I read about the brainworm thing? Because we all laughed about RFK's brainworm. How
the number of people who actually have it. Did you read that?
No. Why he admitted it.
Right.
It's part of his depositions in his divorce.
Right.
And he was just basically trying to use it as an excuse that he doesn't have the cognitive ability to pay out his alimony or whatever, or settle for the divorce. His ex-wife ended up killing herself. So it was a self-solving problem. It's all good now.
Throw.
Yeah. That was a fun little rabbit hole to dive down. But anyway, he's the head of the FDA now, so it's all good.
Health and safety, HHS or something, health and safety services. Is that what it is? Health and safety service, HSS? I can't remember. Speaking of down the hole, America has fallen down the dunny hole, says Brian. Thanks for your super chat. And Peter says, fallacious tweet in my felonious monk tribute act. So let's move on, because arguably the biggest news story in New Zealand tomorrow is going to be the Hikoi, probably is the biggest news story today as well. They've had kind of a day off in Porirua today. Let's have a look what went on and what's expected for tomorrow.
Placards are being painted and security bollards installed. Thousands of marchers who've made their way from the top and bottom of the country in the nationwide Hikoi are now in the capital making final preparations before descending on Parliament tomorrow. And as political editor Mikey Sherman reports, David Seymour wants the debate to continue about his controversial treaty principles bill.
Of course he does, because this is one of those situations where any news for Seymour is good news. I don't believe that in general. People say that. It's not true. But in this instance, I think it's true. If anyone's talking about it, that's all he wants.
At Parliament today, they simply could not wait, an air of anticipation as tens of thousands make their way to the capital.
Probably roughly a 10-hour drive down here for us.
From the East Coast, they came for their young people.
The decisions and choices we make today will impact their future heavily, whether positive or negative, and so it's important that we come and support the kaupapa.
The reason it offends all of us is because it stands on our mana.
One group performed karakia.
We're praying to the one
true God.
Praying to keep everyone safe tomorrow.
As a protection mo te tātou te iwi Māori, te iwi Pākehā.
Despite the promise of a peaceful protest, tensions will be high.
It's now plain for people to see you've got someone getting up, making an argument for how we can have a better New Zealand.
Sorry, do you realise he's talking about himself? He's talking about himself. Somebody getting up and making an argument for a better New Zealand. So he's actually that's what he thinks his position in this is. Just in case you were unclear.
Will be high.
It's now plain for people to see you've got someone getting up, making an argument for how we can have a better New Zealand, and a group of people who jump up, try and get in their face and do a war dance.
Te Pāti Māori certainly have the author of the Treaty Principles Bill in their sights.
I know the intention of them is to intimidate, and I just ultimately say to people, if you have to do a haka to get your point across, maybe you don't have a good argument.
There's an element of challenge, but also empowering ourselves to stand in our own truth in Aotearoa.
Extra barricades have been put in place, with flagpoles removed to deter would-be climbers. Precautions, some say, isn't needed.
I mean, I myself, I don't think that's necessarily needed anyway, but if I was running parliamentary grounds, you'd probably do it. You know, you get 1 or 2 or 5 people who want to go outside what the kaupapa of the actual group is doing. I mean, if I was in charge of those grounds, I'd probably do it, although I also don't think it's needed. So, you know, bob each way.
I think it's just a health and safety thing more than anything.
Yeah. Yeah, because even if it wasn't, if someone went up those poles and fell and broke their back, you know, OSH would be all over them.
Police minister saying, you know, there will be arrests if there are some unlawful. So, that's unhelpful.
One artist preparing to capture the moment.
I think painting the energy is actually captured in the artwork itself. You see it in the brushstrokes.
Earlier this year, he painted the Hikoi at Waitangi.
There might be some different clouds, but obviously the people will be the main feature tomorrow.
The Green Party caucus room packed with those making their mark.
The nation is moving.
That's pretty cool, eh? The Green Party caucus room. Get ready, getting into it, inviting people in.
We're all on their way to Wellington. Some are already here and we're all doing our preparations together.
Nearby workers received emails today to plan ahead.
No one's too worried about it. I think we all know what's happening and, you know, we'll probably come check it out, and whoever wants to support will come support.
I think there'll be about 30,000 or so is what we're expecting to see, yeah, so big numbers.
It will actually be interesting to see the numbers, Chewy, because 30,000, I mean, we got 30,000 in Dunedin, yeah? I mean, I would hope to see more than that, but you also don't want to go out there and go, there's going to be 100,000. And if there's 35,000, it would be seen as a loss or you know, an overestimation. But I hope for more. I hope there's more than that.
I cannot wait to see what comes in from Lower Hutt tomorrow morning. You know, I don't think anybody really has a real handle on how many it's going to be. I am going to love that Seymour has been talking about thuggery and talking about the police and talking about kids being off unjustified and all of that sort of thing. And it is just going to be a peaceful but forceful show of numbers, basically. Like there is a petition circulating around at the moment with 200,000 signatures on it, saying that they should kill this bill. Like, well, there is support out there, and it's mass support. It's more. There's more people campaigning on that than voted for ACT.
Yeah.
You know, so this needs to be seen. Like, our members of parliament are going to be able to look out their office windows and see all of those people. And I hope it makes a difference. I saw Luxon's comments of like, he hasn't made up his mind. He's ambivalent towards the whole thing, which came off really disrespectful.
Well,
he's minimizing it already.
They do cover it off in this. And the one thing that they say is he probably won't come out amongst the people, which I think probably, just thinking about it again, is fair enough. I mean, I don't think he's in any danger, like Jacinda certainly was. No. And was, but I get that. I get him not coming out. But he does say in this, maybe we'll keep playing from here. He does say at one stage that they, the Prime Minister may well meet with some of the delegates from the Hikoi. Let's keep going, eh?
because it's bloody hot right now.
Keeping the temperature down, the focus across the board.
All right, Mikey, who from the government could come out and meet the Hikoi?
Well, ACT leader David Seymour said that he is open to coming out here onto Parliament's forecourt to speak with protesters tomorrow, but I understand that he wants an assurance from Hikoi organisers that he will get a fair opportunity to speak and that he won't be shouted down
about
or
as
sung
fair as
down,
what he's done.
as was the case when he addressed protesters at Waitangi earlier this year. Of course, organisers may well promise that, but of course, for those protesters, who knows what will happen when they come face to face with the author of the bill that they so vehemently reject. So tomorrow will tell how that all plays out. In terms of the National Party, I understand that a small group of National MPs led by Māori Development Minister Tama Pōtaka, they will come out here to receive the Hikoi. As for the Prime Minister, Christopher Luxon, I'm told that he is willing to engage with this protest, but it's extremely unlikely that he will come out here onto the forecourt tomorrow. What is more likely is that he will hold a private meeting, and speculation is that could be with some of the Hikoi organisers, or it could well be with the Māori Queenie Ngāwai Honoi Te Pō, who is expected to make her way here tomorrow with Tainui as part of her role in supporting Māori during this time. Of course, if that meeting does take place, it'll be the first time that Christopher Luxon and Queenie Ngāwai Honoi Te Pō meet since she has taken over the role of her father. She will bring tomorrow the message of kotahitanga unity as part of her late father's legacy.
So there's a second part of that story which we're going to play as well. But because we want to stand by, who we say we are and what we expect from others, I do want to say we just said 200,000 signatures, and that's more than the ACT Party got as well. ACT Party got 246,000 votes. Just to make sure
we need to get some more signatures on that.
So another 50,000 signatures, and then we'll prove Chewy to be correct.
Well, that's all I'm on. I'm just a time traveler. That's all I am.
This is I was watching the chat screen by. I didn't star any of the comments, but most people, when I was saying 30,000, I hope it's more. People say it's going to be more. 40 minimum. People are saying so.
I'm hoping for 50.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think there's a couple of things that are really clear in what David Seymour said. What would serve his purpose greatly is if it does turn violent, which from everything I have seen from this movement, there is no chance. There's zero chance of them giving Seymour what he wants.
Yeah, I agree.
Because it's so obvious. And I just find it, there is not a leader that has had more airtime on this than Seymour. He's always in front of the cameras. That's the debate he wants. He doesn't want to talk to these people. It would, again, serve his purpose if he is shouted down. So if he goes out, that's what he's hoping for.
That'll work with his narrative.
I'm being the reasonable person, and I'm just trying to open a dialogue, and all the Māoris just yelled at me, and see, they can't be bargained with. They don't understand compromise. Wah. So my advice, is, for what it's worth, don't invite him out. Don't ask him to come out. Ask the leader of this country to come out, because he made the deal. He birthed this absolute abortion, and it lands with him.
Yeah.
Now he does not want to get involved in this. He does not want a shred of this to stick to it. So he is the one that needs to front, not Seymour. Bugger him. He's got all of the airtime on this. You don't need to talk to him. You don't need to engage with him.
I really like what Kiwi Bird said. Kiwi Bird said this: Seymour has already had a say. Now it's our turn.
100%.
I think that's really good, and I think that's true as well. Because, here's the thing, we kind of touched on this last week about the rules in Parliament. Oh, you got to have the right rules. It's unparliamentary behaviour. It's unparliamentary behaviour to call someone a liar, but it is correct parliamentary behaviour to try and change the founding document, kind of taking away the relationship that Māori have with the Crown. That's okay, but saying liar, well outside the bounds. And look, it's like, I think, depending on what the issue is, I think that rudeness, shoutiness, whatever you need to do, it can be okay. There's also times where it's not, right? But I don't think there's there's that old adage, okay, a tangent, I'm sorry, but there's old adage about, violence is never okay. Well, that's not actually true. Like if your partner was walking down the street and your partner was getting hit in the head by some random, you wouldn't go, oh, well, I would come and help you, love, but violence is never okay. All of these sayings that people have like that, there's extreme examples where they're okay, or that it works. And I think shouting and loud voices and, shut the fuck up, you've had your talk, you'll say it's our turn now, all appropriate. In that setting, perhaps on the marae, in a more reverent moment, not appropriate, So I don't think Seymour will come out, and I think, Chewie, what you've said is completely accurate. He will get shouted down by the crowd, and it will serve his purpose to further his narrative of the unreasonable crowd not wanting to have a civilized conversation like those of us wanting to make a better country. So I think you'll probably see that tomorrow, because Seymour knows going out there and getting shouted down will further his narrative. His Atlas backers will love it. The savage natives. Look at those unkempt savage natives. They can't even, we must come in and, colonize again. It's a recolonization, just in a different way.
He's already tried that. It's the thuggish war dance.
Yeah.
The fact is, what's really getting under his britches, the sand in his crevices that must have been annoying him all weekend, is Hannes Haka has done numbers. It has been remixed. It has been duetted. It has had people adding context. It's had people framing it for other Indigenous struggles around the world. It has sent a flare up that has been seen.
Yeah.
And Seymour can't argue with that. I've seen the official ACT Party campaigns running around and adding their own comment onto these videos on TikTok, going, well, actually, it's actually about this. It's about equality. And that's fine. People see this for what it is. It has brought more recognition to this internationally than he would have wanted. Absolutely. And I think he has 100% misjudged how the majority of New Zealanders feel about this. You guys in the chat have all got stories about people that are maybe not plugged into the struggle normally, but this has got their attention. They don't think it's fair either.
Let's keep rolling, because as always, Chewie, you have no idea what's going to play next, but you introduce it perfectly.
Still been plenty to do, as Māori Affairs correspondent Te Whatu Ora reports.
On the eve of the final Hikoi, they haka. A Ngāti Toa Taonga they plan to take to the steps of Parliament.
Today is about kotahitanga, learning about the whakapapa of this rohe, so we can go on with our best foot forward, our popo.
After 8 days on the move, the momentum has grown.
It's a sweet van.
I like that van, eh?
Oh, that van's so good.
It's just
amazing.
I think that we might have a new. We should find out who's got it. Maybe we can borrow it for a weekend and do a trip.
After 8 days on the move, the momentum has grown. Thousands taking action in towns and cities across Aotearoa and overseas. Protesters.
This is what you were saying, Joe. They've got a whole range of them. Have a look at this. It's pretty wicked.
Seen here in Brisbane and Sydney, some in Hawaii, and on the streets of New York. The Hikoi mo te tiriti movement even reaching as far away as Mount Everest.
The response to the dumbass politician trying to change the landscape, and it's great, because it just shows you where our people is.
Tameiti knows a thing or two about protest.
I don't know how many times, but I've been doing it for the last 50 odd years. But today is different. Today is different. So you have a whole different generation.
A generation who aren't afraid to speak up. Hana Rāpiti Maipi's stand in the House last week, adding more fuel to the Hikoi flame.
My sign says, have mana like Hana, the little stones in the Parliament meter.
You like that one?
Oh, that's good.
I noticed
so
also
good.
I noticed one of the boys who was performing a haka had Hana written on his chest in like white paint or white ink. It was pretty cool. Yeah, it's just what she's done to that generation, the younger generation. Like remember she's 21, she's in Parliament, and she was the reason that haka started, and she was the one who got that going. It was like, so therefore in that moment, she, 21, was the leader in the House. It's phenomenal.
Kana, the little stunt she pulled in the Parliament made
Little
us proud.
Her ripping of the Treaty Principles Bill being replicated on the other side of the world. And if that wasn't enough, the Māori Queen has now taken a stand and will join the Hikoi tomorrow.
Very emotional for our people to see more come through, as to live up to our late King's words, ko tahitanga is the way.
People are already pouring into Wellington, including Ngāi Tahu from the south. Police gearing up for a big day too.
From the briefings that I've had and the conversations that I've had, the organisers of the Hikoi have been working very closely in cooperation with police to try and reduce as much disruption as they can.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I just got to do this once. Mark Mitchell. Sorry, I'll keep going.
To members of the public.
For what is predicted to be one of the biggest Hikoi the capital has ever seen.
And then the story goes into where to look out for. That's where I got that information from, that later in the story. They're going to start, there's a vehicle drive starting at 6 a.m. and they're starting to walking at 4 a.m. And the thing about the Queen, that the reason that's kind of been mentioned with some surprise is that the tradition is she basically stays silent, keeps her head down for 12 months of mourning from her father. So her being involved and possibly meeting with the Prime Minister, which was mooted today, is fascinating. Yeah, it's really interesting. I wanted to show you one other thing as well, because we remember the story about Lydia Thorpe, right? Lydia Thorpe is the senator in Australia who protested the King. Well, she was censured today, much like Hana is being censured, right, and been put in time out. I don't know if Lydia is particularly replicating Hana, but she makes mention of of what she's going through and what's happening for her. Let's play this.
Censure motion is like that to me. I don't give a damn about censure motion. In fact, I'm going to use it for kindling later on in the week. If the colonising king were to come to my country again, our country, then I'll do it again. And I will keep doing it. I will resist colonisation in this country. I swear my allegiance to the real sovereigns of these lands. First Peoples are the real sovereigns. You don't have some random king rock up and say that he's sovereign. Would you like that happening to your home? Would you like someone to knock on your door and say, time for you to leave, I'm taking over, and these are the new rules of your house? Well, not on my watch. This is shutting down a woman of colour. White supremacy exists in this country. White supremacy exists in this building. Now, to call it out doesn't mean you're a bad person. It's just truth-telling. I come from strong blood and I represent the Black Sovereign Movement, and we are resisting the colony. I'll use the privilege of what a senator has to infiltrate and bring down the colony. That's what I'm here for. I'm not here for friends or votes. I'm here to bring down the colony.
There you go. Enough said. Enough said.
I think from everything that I have seen behind this desire for Māori to stand up against this bill, is I think they've completely misunderstood the vibe that's going to arrive on the forecourt tomorrow.
You're talking about David Seymour and his crew have misunderstood.
Mm-hmm. I think they have. Don't get me wrong. There is anger there.
Mm-hmm.
But what I have seen, like when we had our rally here in Dunedin, is much more positive, because it is people standing up for themselves, and it is people looking around and seeing who is standing with them. And yes, it's a bad thing that they're protesting. It's a bad thing that they have to. This is discussions that we have had. We were making progress, however slow. There was progress happening. This is a backward step. But I think if the same vibe carries on to that forecourt tomorrow, that it's going to be an incredibly powerful, positive movement for Māori. That is why those kids are there.
Yeah.
It is not just the old guard, it's the new guard. And this is what Seymour is so afraid of. He's got to get this done, and he's misjudged his time, and he's misjudged how people look at it. Yes, he's reading comment sections in the Herald that everyone's forum, and who knows about these bloody greedy Māoris and stuff like that. That's the old guard. I look and I see the comments in there, people, with the FOMO that they're not going to be able to go there. Just make sure that you're extra visible on social media tomorrow, especially if you're Pākehā or non-Māori in any way, that you support them. Social media can be a real double-edged sword, but if people see you standing up for this, it'll be seen. It'll be noted. You say nothing, it'll also be noted.
Yes, fair, actually. Yeah, it's going to be fascinating. And like I said, I'll have a look around on Twitter and TikTok and Instagram and stuff tomorrow. And if I can find some live feeds, which I'm sure they'll be out there, I might jump in live as well. So if you have FOMO, feel free to make sure you subscribe or make sure you hit the notification bell. Then if we do, I'm not sure, if we do go live, we'll definitely try and figure something out. And also, obviously, tomorrow night we'll be back in and we'll be doing the big rundown as well. A few super chatters in there that I just want to get to as well. Chewy Wooming says, Seymour's Te Tiriti takes are as astute as Trump's tariff takes.
Yep, absolutely. And in the same way that numerous experts immediately have stood up and said, no, you've got this wrong. So much expert advice. Learned legal scholars and Torea scholars, treaty scholars, they've all said that he's wrong. There's not a single one that stood up, and he can't show us who's telling him that he's right.
Yeah. So
I'll go with the evidence on this one.
Brian says, wonderful to see young ones involved. Kia kaha. Nakihi says, David Seymour, the person that has united Māoridom. I was just thinking, imagine if on his gravestone it says, David Seymour, the man who united Māoridom. and then people kind of lost the story. It'd be like in 200 years from now, that would be seen as like, he must have been an amazing man. Must have been an amazing man to unite Māoridom. They don't know the actual story that goes with it. Kuki just says, was late. There you go, fair enough. Shayad says, in Wellington now from Tauranga, Brian Tamaki's gang cosplayers passed us. Hopefully they'll stay out of the way. Wombat, holy I'm 34 and jeepers, I want to be like Hannah when I grow up. Thank you for the super chat. Ken says, I'm getting strong memories of Helen Clark calling people on the foreshore and seabed Hikoi haters and wreckers. Toitu te tiriti, $8.99. Thank you for your super chat. Ian says, exploit Seymour. He's incredibly oily. Daniel, thank you for your super chat. Been a great day at work today listening to how angry my right-wing co-workers are getting towards Luxon and his unsupportive stance towards the bill. Yep. All those people who are angry that Luxon has said he's going to meet with, the protesters are all the same people who were grumpy that the previous Prime Minister would not meet with the protesters. There's a strange irony in that.
And remember, that's a feature for Seymour. Those people that are angry at Luxon for being soft on this will go to ACT.
Yeah.
And the people that would have been National's middle ground might also be angry with him for allowing this division to happen. So he's not a good political operator. He didn't run the numbers on this one.
Here's an interesting one. Labour Party will change for the good tomorrow. That's interesting. Sea changes come through. There are often moments that rock organisations, groups, parties, businesses, and they cause them to. What do they talk about in business? When you refocus, you tangent. Anyway, I can't think of the word. Pivot. Yeah, that'll do. You pivot. Maybe you're right. Maybe they'll see it tomorrow and finally pivot. I still think, though, if the left work together in a smarter way, you could have the parties kind of an unwritten rule between them taking various parts and pushing for stronger together, So, I mean, I know it's probably unrealistic, but hey, yeah, stick around tomorrow. Come on back tomorrow. Check us out tomorrow afternoon if I do jump in and do go live. And remember that we have the merch store open with some beautiful Nikki No Boats gear. I mean, it's spectacular, isn't it, Chewy? I mean, it's spectacular. It's just spectacular. Look at it. Look at it, people. Look at it. And to be really frank with you, as I said at the start, I've already pre-ordered a bunch of T-shirts for this week, so there are limited numbers. Tonight we sold a quarter of them. So a quarter
you guys have been
gone.
waiting for this.
A quarter have gone on the first night. So if you don't have, because there will be more stuff next week, but if you want them earlier, you need to get to the shop, bhnshop.nz, sooner rather than later, and then obviously the hoodies are there as well, and then you can.
Have you mentioned that this is designed by Emily?
Yeah, Emily. People know that. Emily in the.
Okay.
I think Emily's in the chat, isn't she? Emily, our Friday night. And also, while you're there, if you're interested in getting some kind of cost price Beardy Boy shirts, there's some in there as well. But you can see they're very limited. The blue and yellow is only small and large. That's all that's left. So we thought we'd throw those out there as well because it's got a few of those left. bhnshop.nz. Yeah, cool. Thanks, team. Thanks for the show tonight. Anything you want to add in there, Chewy?
Just I'm really looking to see how tomorrow plays out. I think it feels like a moment. And yeah, I'm just really looking forward to see how it goes tomorrow. We'll talk about it lots tomorrow night.
Yeah, and we might see if we can get some people on to have a chat to us about it. If you guys have been along there, make sure you send us some of your videos and imagery and that kind of stuff, and we'll show them up there as well. And yeah, thanks for being with us tonight. Guru's got the best one of the night, I think. There you go. Hikoi Eve is better than Christmas. I'm feeling you. Do I agree? Probably.
Help us settle a debate, whether it be thoughtful or funny, even if we're all creatures of hate. It's a fine line that we're walking together. For better, push aside the temptation to berate. Let's take a note of the corners we stand in. As many points as the hairs on my chinny chin chin. When the news that we're watching is hairy, knowing all the things that we need to be wary of. Like the rich have their hand out for rewards, while the many have to work out what they can't afford. And the rest of us ain't paying attention, or maybe have questions we're too worried to mention. Other media is still dwelling on trivial facts, vetting bees from the rice and the mice from the rats, and picking and choosing a warpath to run, and linking ourselves with the hill to die on. It's gotta come down to a welcoming vibe, with an A and a self and a higher in mind. All heavily, neither this way or that, and will be analyzed by what you impact. With the evil in the world trying to mess with your head, and you're sitting on the couch, you're thinking chivalry's dead. Each night, 2 nights, they're gonna sing you to bed. It's Big Hairy News.
All right, team. Yep, we'll catch you tomorrow night from 9 o'clock for another edition of Big Hairy News. If you're going to the protest, Be safe. I'm sure it's going to be, like Chewy said, I agree with Chewy, it's going to be calm and safe and it'll be all good. But be doubly safe. Keep your eyes open. Watch out for those Destiny cosplayers, as someone said. And we will talk about it all tomorrow night and get your experiences then. Chewy?
Yes, all of that. Be cool to everybody.
Be cool to everybody. All right, team. We'll catch you tomorrow night from 9. We're live for another edition of Big Hero News. Hooroo!
Cheers, fam.